So I'll go ahead and welcome everyone. I'm so very excited for you to be here tonight. This Family Health Forum is sort of, I guess, my first jump in both feet, do the whole thing sort of shindig. So you guys might have seen my face on a couple of webinars, some of the more routine 1-hour trainings that we do with like the fitness challenge and that kind of stuff. If you've not ever seen my face before, I am Jennifer number 2 at Special Olympics. I was hired in May, and so it's been a lot of fun. Tonight for the Family Health Forum, we've got topics on diabetes and health and nutrition and oral health. We're going to start off tonight with my friend Alex, and he is from Arkansas Hunger Relief Alliance. True story, Alex, I actually knew Alex before I came here, so I get really excited when I see people that I've seen in other arenas of my career path. So it's always nice to see a familiar, friendly face. So that's always nice. He's going to go first tonight, and then you'll hear from Ms. Brandy Sandersfield, and she is with Arkansas Disability and Health, and she'll be talking to us tonight about diabetes. I'll be sorry, you guys are stuck with me again. You'll hear from me on oral health tonight. So I'll go ahead and I am going to turn it over to Alex and let him share his screen. You guys don't forget to stay though, because at the very end, we're going to have a drawing for a prize, and you have to be on to get the prize. So don't forget. So I'm going to mute myself and make it where you don't have to look at my face, and you guys can listen to Alex, and we will get it started. If you have any problems or questions, please be sure to put those in the chat, and I'll be monitoring that as we go along. All right, thank you guys. I'm going to disappear for a minute.
Well, hello everyone. Can you see my screen and hear my voice? I see some action in the chat if things are working, and so I know I'm not talking to myself over here. And it looks like I am talking to other people besides myself. Thanks, y'all. Well, thanks, Jennifer, for getting this together. I forget when we had originally planned to do it, but some plans have had to change this year, and I'm excited to be finally doing this. We've been working with Special Olympics and Arkansas Disability and Health for a while, and it's some of my favorite people to work with. So really appreciate y'all joining on a Thursday night when you probably want to be cooking dinner. So we are going to be talking about food. So I hope that you've already eaten or else you're about to get very hungry. This is me, and that is a picture of me the only day a year that I wear a suit. And Melinda, I see your questions. Is this for the Olympics? Yeah, this is a Family Health Forum for Special Olympics. So we're going to be talking about nutrition and diabetes health and oral health, just real great overview of health topics. Let me know if that answered your question or not. Okay, yes, so this is me. And yes, I even wore a tie that day. And moral of the story is I love food, and I love eating, I love cooking, I love smelling, I love everything about food. It's, I wake up, I think about what I'm gonna make for breakfast, and when I'm done with the breakfast, I start thinking about lunch. Yeah, and I think that every single person in Arkansas, in the United States, on the entire planet, and even out there in space, if we've still got some folks on the space station, I think that every person deserves access to delicious foods. Food is meant to be enjoyed. That's certainly what I like to do with it, and I want to help everyone find delicious foods that they can eat. So a little bit about the Hunger Relief Alliance. We're the statewide association of hunger relief agencies. So hopefully you recognize this map of the state of Arkansas. And so you'll see there's 7 little dots and 6 colors. The 6 colors are the 6 regional food banks in the state. So think of them kind of as like Walmart distribution centers. and they source food to food pantries, which are those, places in churches, the soup kitchens, the actually places in your community that actually are feeding people on the ground. So they get a lot of their food from the food banks. And the food banks in 2004 founded us at the Arkansas Hunger Relief Alliance to be their statewide association to really coordinate food purchasing and advocacy on a statewide level. And since then, you can see that we have grown a lot. So I'll be talking about nutrition today. And um, has anyone seen this before? And I would love feedback in the chat box, or else I will get very tired of hearing my own voice. And so, does anyone know what this is? Let me know if you've got any ideas. And if you are about to type my plate, which it says in big black letters, thank you, Mackenzie, you are correct. Yes, Andy. So yeah, it's basically your recommended what your plate should look like when you eat a meal. If anyone remembers the food pyramid growing up, this replaced that. And I'm actually really happy about that because I never could remember what was on the bottom of the pyramid and why it was a pyramid. But I eat off a plate. So this makes a lot more sense to me. For me, this just kind of serves as a really helpful reminder to kind of look at my plate and think, all right, what food groups do I have on this plate and what food groups am I missing? So I'm a mostly vegetarian-ish. I don't like labels, but I don't buy a ton of meat. So I got to worry about protein, making sure that I get enough. And for most folks, there's something on this plate that none of us get enough of, and that's the fruits and vegetables. So if I could give one piece of advice, one piece of nutrition advice for every single person in this country, it would just be to eat more fruits and vegetables, fresh, frozen, or canned. I don't care. Just more fruits and veggies is probably going to be better for you. So as a little test, we got these two food items here, a head of celery and a bag of frozen berries. And so I'd love if you could put in the chat, what are some ways that you could add some other food groups to these for either a snack or a meal? I know growing up, one of my favorite snacks in the world, yes, was peanut butter and celery with a little bit of raisins on there, the old ants on a log. So it's got your vegetable with your celery, your protein with your peanut butter, and your fruit with your raisins. So that is a incredibly simple, almost shelf-stable snack with 3 of your food groups right there. I'm seeing some celery and hummus. Hummus has got a good amount of protein. Some yogurt, fruit and granola, a little homemade yogurt parfait. We're getting some good food groups in there. So thank you all. Yes, it is just a way, instead of just eating that plain piece of celery or just pouring a cup full of frozen berries in your mouth, think about how you can add some other food groups in there. Yes, Jennifer, frozen mango chunks are officially the best. They are incredible. So I want to talk a little bit about sort of everything from meal planning to shopping to actually preparing food, specifically in these not so new times anymore, but in these COVID-19 times where we're all figuring out ways to stay safe and healthy. Just what are some ways that we can make sure we do that now? So before you even go, of course, on the planning side, I make a general shopping list of like, what are the categories of things that I want, but if I don't find exactly what I want, that's fine. Of course, the best place to shop is your fridge and pantry first. the most expensive food is the food that we throw away. So make sure we are reducing food waste. Of course, looking at the ads and coupons if you want to, find the best deals. That's usually the place to go. And we're going to talk a lot today about getting kids and picky eaters, how to get them to try more types of fruits and vegetables. Vicky with the Kroger app, absolutely. I've actually enjoyed, before this, I loved going to the grocery store. I was one of those rare people that actually thought it was kind of fun looking at all the products. And so I only moved to online shopping now in this pandemic. And yeah, I don't think I'll ever go back. It saves all my frequently bought items. And so, it's way easier to not forget something when it says, hey, you bought bananas last time. Like, you're probably going to want that again. And I'm like, yeah. And I actually do a lot less impulse buying because I'm not walking by delicious bags of chips. I would have to type them in the search box. Of course, think through your recipes for the week and what you're going to need there. Keep some staples in your pantry so that any night that you're trying to improvise. I always keep black beans, pinto beans, peanut butter, coconut milk, rice. There's just some things that I always have in my kitchen. So if I'm ever in a pinch, I can just kind of add them to something. And yeah, of course, now if we're trying to go to the grocery store less frequently, then choosing ingredients that are going to last longer is a way to cut down on those grocery store trips. So the rules have changed a bit in the grocery store if you've been brave enough to go in there. I remember when the pandemic first started, I think I made it like almost 3 weeks before, because I was, everyone said the grocery stores are packed and there's nothing in there. So I was trying to avoid them at all costs. I was eating everything that I had, and I finally, did, and finally braved it. And I, think things have calmed down most places, thankfully. Of course, just practice those CDC guidelines like we always should. Most stores I've seen have been really great about having sanitizing wipes right near the cart. So just give your cart a nice little wipe down. It's especially important now to keep it short. I, before this, was certainly would lollygag in the store and felt the need to go up and down every aisle just in case there was, some new deal on something that I could find. But now when I'm going in there, I got my list and I'm getting my things and getting out as quickly as I can. We noticed in the beginning of the pandemic, if we've learned anything from this, it's that we're all in this together. And so, there were shortages of certain products like toilet paper because other people were hoarding them, stocking up. And so just buy what you need. And specifically the WIC label for women, infants, and children, they have specific restrictions around what products they're allowed to buy. So if their product runs out, then there might be nothing that they can buy. So when you can, try to avoid that WIC label and leave those products for people on WIC. A lot of all the grocery stores I've been in, aisles are one way, which is pretty tough for me because, I guess I'm just bad at following directions. I think most stores are letting you bring your own bags now. Some still aren't. And what's really hard for me, and when we're talking about nutrition, is touch only what you're buying. And I'm someone who likes flipping everything over and reading every ingredient list and comparing all the unit prices. And so it's one more bonus for online shopping, is I can take all the time I want looking at the online food label without having to touch anything. So if you wouldn't mind putting in the chat box if there's other ways that your shopping habits have had to change, or if you've got other tips for people, those are the best ones that I could come up with. Excuse me. So yeah, we were talking about that online option, Vicky, and this has really grown on me. I was reticent at first, but a couple things I've learned doing the online shopping. Just make sure to double check your order when you're getting it. There's a lot of people working real hard, going through these products, and things might not always be there. Um, I have learned to always be ready when they send me a text when they start shopping. And then while they're shopping, if they can't find something, they'll text me again saying, hey, we can't find, this bubbly water. Do you want this bubbly water? And if you don't answer them in that time, then they just won't substitute it, even if it's something that you would have been happy with. So I've learned to be available when they're doing their shopping so that you can answer and get those substitutions. And then, yeah, if you're able, please tip your shopper. These are, our essential workers. They're people who have kept our country running and kept us fed. And so I think the least we can do is thank them for making grocery shopping a little easier and safer for us. So yeah, I'd love in the chat box. Vicky is definitely a fan of online groceries. I'd love to hear if anyone else has had any good or not so great experiences with online groceries. Of course, a way to save money is to waste less food, and that includes freezing, and so and storing stuff correctly. So just rinse your produce. Like last week, I was making a butternut squash dish, and I did not anticipate. I did not fully appreciate how large the butternut squash I was using was. And so I cut it in half and then cut up the half of the squash and realized I had plenty for what I was making that night. And so I did that. I first got a cookie sheet and then spread the other half, cut the other half of butternut squash up, spread it out on the cookie sheet, and then put that in the freezer. Once those were frozen pretty well, I just put them in a nice freezer bag and wrapped them up. And now I've got already pre-chopped butternut squash for when I try to make soup next week. So definitely learning how to waste less food, very important. So when we think about meal planning, especially for kids and for picky eaters, kids are just like adults. They're just little humans, and just like we like having choice in what we get to eat, kids also like that as well. And so any opportunities that we can create where the kid or the picky eater has some choice, if it's, hey, here are these two types of vegetables, which one do you want that night? They're going to be a lot more likely to eat that one if they feel like they had some choice in it than if it's just like, here's a vegetable, I don't care if you like it, it's all you're eating. Choosing family favorites, there's nothing wrong with just sticking with, sort of having a round of like 3 to 5 staple dishes and making those every week and having leftovers. And I'm a person of routine and habit, and usually when I get in the kitchen I end up making the same thing, just because I don't feel like spending the time and energy to look up something different. Of course we're trying to get more fruits and veggies, and the more that our kids can take part in preparing that recipe, the more likely they're going to want to be to eat it. So at any age, we want to start getting our kids in the kitchen to just introduce them to cooking and getting them comfortable in there. So here's a good example of a very customizable recipe. And it is a very easy recipe because there is no heat involved. I don't know about y'all, but those trail mixes, the ones already made at the store, are expensive. It's like a little bag for like $7 or $8 or something, right? And I have certainly found that if I just keep some of these staples at home, that when I can make my own trail mix for much cheaper, and I can actually only put in things that I actually like. So it's real easy. Just get some dried fruit, nuts, crunchy grains, and whatever else, and have at it. Start off with half a cup of each and go from there. But again, making your own trail mix at home gonna save money, and I think you're gonna like it better too. So when we're cooking with kids, I'd love if y'all could chat in how you involve your kids in the kitchen. Of course, we want to start simple. So even if we've got an 8-month-old baby like Brandy has, you can leave them in their high chair in the kitchen and give them some pots and pans to bang on, and put in some earplugs and let them have at it. But yeah, show them that the kitchen is a place where where we all work hard, and it's a fun and comfortable place to be. Of course, adjust those tasks, and we really want to focus on making our food experiences positive. Uh, there's that saying that people will remember how you made them feel, more than they'll remember what you said. And that's very true about cooking as well. Is people will remember their emotions around food experiences a lot more than they'll remember the specifics of that experience. So we really want to try to keep it positive, and as hard as it can be, patience is just so key here. I know at the end of a long day and you're working hard in the kitchen, and the last thing you need is your kid knocking over half a dinner and starting over. And yeah, it's a learning curve, and that's part of how they're learning to test boundaries. And yeah, when we can, we just got to try to practice that patience. And thank y'all. Dominic loves to cook. Angie's son loves fire. So yeah, you're gonna have to watch out there. Brandy's son's favorite toy is a wooden spoon. So he's already off to a great start. And yeah, Jessica said I'm not a baby, and she cooks in a microwave, which nothing wrong with that. Yep, if you can get it warm and it tastes good, then that is all it takes. So here is another very simple, very customizable recipe, a yogurt parfait, which a lot of y'all already had the great idea to make with those frozen berries earlier. And how much is that one at the McDonald's drive-through? It's at least what, $4 or $5? And they add a lot of sweetener to it. So yogurt parfait, you get your yogurt, you get your fruit, you get your granola, and yeah, and you're good to go. You can put whatever fruit you like. You can get different kinds of crunchy things to test them out in there, but and strawberries in particular are a really great beginner fruit to learn to cut, because they're so soft that you can even cut them with just a regular disposable plastic knife. So if we want to involve our kids in the kitchen and practice those knife skills, cutting the tops off strawberries with a plastic knife is a great place to start. So I know we all have some picky eaters in our lives, and yeah, it's tough. They want mac and cheese every night, and sometimes it's just easier to give them mac and cheese. But the important part for picky eaters is to just keep offering. Persistence is key here. It takes a kid an average of trying a food 8 times for their palate to get used to it. And so, yeah, it'd be really frustrating to throw away blueberries 8 times, just for someone to finally like it. So that's particularly where something like frozen can really come in handy. Keep some frozen blueberries in the freezer, and take one out at a time. Let them try it. They don't like it. All you did was waste one blueberry instead of a whole pint. Texture is really big for picky eaters, and so it's really important when someone says they don't like a food to not just say, "All right, that's fine," but to ask them, "What don't you like about it? Is it, the squishy texture of the banana? Because we could blend that in a smoothie and make it taste great, right?" um, Something we do in cooking classes with kids is we'll um, give them three different types of carrots. We'll do raw, we'll do roasted, and we'll do steamed. And we'll just let them try all three. And not everyone loves all forms of carrots, right? That some people like that crunch, some people don't. And so a lot of times we can just prepare something a different way and still get them to try it. Or with something like spinach or black beans, we can cook it down and hide it in there. And then lastly, we all have learned the hard way when we say something that we didn't think our kids could hear, and then we hear them repeating it, that they are always watching and listening to us. And so it's really about modeling that behavior. And if we want, our kids to be drinking less soda, then it's really going to start with us to, be drinking more water. And if we want them to be walking more, then we got to walk more too. But that they're always looking to us. And so it's important that, we kind of walk the walk and show them how we want to do it. So here is one of my favorite Cooking Matters recipes. It's called the turkey burger macaroni. And all of our recipes can be found on our website at cookingmatters.org. So no worries about, screen capturing any of this. But the idea of this recipe is it just is basically like your hamburger helper. It's just a cheesy, meaty, noodly goodness. But it's got about 1/6 of the sodium. It's got about a third of the calories, and it comes out to a similar cost as buying Hamburger Helper. So the general point with this recipe is that when you make something yourself at home, it's generally going to be, from scratch and not from a box. It's generally going to be healthier. It's generally going to be cheaper. And I honestly think that this one tastes better. Like now when I have the Hamburger Helper, I'm just like, whoa. Like all I can taste is salt. Whereas this is good, y'all. Like I just ate dinner and I'm getting hungry just talking about it. So if you think this recipe is something that you or your family might eat, I'd love to hear in the chat if you think you just make it like it says with ground turkey, or if you think there's any substitutions or additions you might add. I would love to hear how you'd modify it, and maybe I'll try it next time. Thanks, Dominic. Yeah, you all should try that. It's good. And okay, we made this delicious food. There are actual benefits to sitting down and eating our food together. There's actual health benefits to it. It's not just, because our mom said so. Of course, it helps develop that positive relationship with food. There's all these studies that show it results in higher grades. That shows it increases people's fruit and vegetable consumption, and that shows it improves healthier weight as adults. So eating together as a family does work. So I'd love if y'all chatted in the chat box. What do you enjoy about family meals together? I know for me, it's that, it was like it's just like that sort of sacred time where we sit down together, we don't have phones, we don't have TV, we don't have all the distractions and the busyness of the outside world. It's just like the only time we really slow down and kind of really look at each other, you know, and really listen to each other. And thank you, Jennifer. Yeah, those funny conversations. Many of my greatest laughing fits were at the dinner table. And yeah, Elizabeth is reaffirming what I said, that her students are more ready to try new foods if they get to make it themselves. So there you go. It's not just me, y'all. So yeah, tips for mealtime. Um, just make it a habit. You could play music, but try to limit, put those phones away, turn the TV off, and yeah, just try to use it as a time to have a conversation and check in and see how everybody's doing. So I obviously love recipes. This is another one of my favorites, the baked flaked chicken. And the basic idea of this is, instead of deep frying chicken, which of course you get a lot of that unsaturated fat in the oils, if you take cornflakes, put them in a Ziploc bag, uh, take it with a rolling pin and crush them up, which is a great thing for our kitchen helpers to do, and then roll the chicken in that and bake it. It still comes out very crispy and crunchy and delicious, but it has way less unsaturated fat. So it is super delicious. I like it with hot sauce and honey and sweet potato fries on the side. So let me know if there's any other things that you might serve with this to make it look more like my plate. So, all right, after we're done eating, we've got these leftovers, and especially lately, we have been cooking a lot more at home, and we may be getting tired of eating the same things over and over again. So we have these recipe frameworks, which are just basically outlines for a recipe, and they are great for taking your leftovers and transforming them into something that seems new. So you could take that leftover chili and turn it into a casserole. You could add pasta to it. You could turn it into a soup. Yeah, so there's tons of things you can do. And this Washington Post leftovers guide is great. Even those little packets of ketchup, it will tell you what to do with them. Pork rinds to fried chicken sounds delicious, Shara. And if any of y'all have an air fryer, those things do the trick too. So here are some quick and easy snack ideas, just to make it easy, also easy things besides just grabbing a bag of chips. Those baked apples is one of my go-to desserts for, if we're trying to not eat quite as much like ice cream. It's amazing. If you just bake an apple, put some butter and sugar on it, it does the trick. And it's funny, even presentation matters, right? Like, you take fruit, you put it on a kebab, and suddenly a kid's more likely to eat it than if it's in a fruit salad. It's amazing. Kids are easy to trick. So the last things I'll talk about tonight is, of course, one of the things that most of us are getting way too much of is added sugar in our diets. For teens in this country, it actually accounts for the biggest portion of calories they're getting, is from sugar sweetened beverages. So not, protein or not bread. It's most of their calories are coming from drinks. And so definitely one thing we can do, to all of us can do to try to work on that, our health, is to, go for some lower added sugar items. And you can see just in your average juice or soda, how many teaspoons of sugar you're drinking. So some other drinks that work well: make your own smoothies at home. They are not cheap when you buy them out. They are much more affordable if you buy them at home. So it's so easy. A good blender goes a long way. Whatever fruit you got, you can do juice or milk or yogurt. You can add some spices in there, add some ice, and you are good to go. So I'm going to start wrapping up. Here's a few resources that I really like. We've got a Cooking Matters app, only on Android, not on iPhone. I apologize. But that, you know, if you pick a recipe, it'll build your shopping list for you. It's great. We've got our Cooking Matters website, which has all those recipes on there, and you can search 30-minute recipes or kid-friendly recipes or diabetes-friendly. Really great resource. We encourage you to follow our Cooking Matters Arkansas Facebook page. Yes, those black bean brownies, Elizabeth, are. I'll admit, I didn't think they sounded appetizing, but I love them. You cannot even tell those black beans are in there. We've got Cooking Matters at Home guides on our website. And then this is my contact information and my colleague Sam. So I know this was a real quick overview of nutrition, but if you ever have any questions, comments, concerns, that's what I'm here for. I would absolutely love if you reached out to me. So I'm happy to take any questions in the chat as we slowly start switching over to Brandy. Thank you all so much. Thank you, Angie. Zucchini brownies. I gotta hear about that. If you got a recipe, James, send it. Good seeing you too, Anne. Well, not seeing you, but yeah, thanks for hanging out. It's been a while.
It's kind of sad that it's one-sided. They can see us, but we can't see them. All right. Look how fast y'all did that transition. Man, y'all are so good.
Are we ready for me to go?
I don't see any other questions coming in right now. So I would say, yes, ma'am. I will release you to do your thing.
Okay, let's hope this works with no hiccups. Good evening, guys. My name is Brandy Sandersfeld. I am the program manager for Arkansas Disability and Health. If you're not familiar with our program, we are a part of Partners for Inclusive Communities, which is the University of Arkansas Center for Excellence on Developmental Disabilities. And so within our program, we basically focus on creating inclusive health promotion programs. We work in policy and systems and environmental changes, which is really all inclusive. Anything that has to do with disability and health, we can assist with. And a lot of that varies greatly on what we do. So some of our programs that we have is Cooking Matters. We work with Alex. We worked with Alex to develop a addenda to the Cooking Matters for individuals with disabilities. And so we do a lot with Cooking Matters. We're really proud of that program. We are doing diabetes education, which is what I'm here to talk to you about today. We also have the Women Be Healthy program, colorectal cancer, Walk with Ease is in full swing right now, and our newest program is Feeling Good About Your Smile. So why am I talking about diabetes today? Our grant is through the Center for Disease Control, and we actually received another small grant that allowed us to access data in the state of Arkansas, Medicaid data, and try to identify conditions or issues within the population of people with disabilities that most need our attention within the state. And the one that just kept coming up was diabetes. So Arkansas has a greater percentage of adults with disabilities than the national average. And of adults with disabilities, almost 20% have diabetes. So that's a really large number. And not to mention the amount of population that is pre-diabetic and at risk for diabetes. So after we went through this data, we realized that diabetes is a huge issue across the country, but especially in Arkansas. So what what have we been doing about this? One issue we noticed was that there's not a lot of diabetes education um, out in the public that's accessible for individuals with intellectual or developmental disabilities. It's kind of hard to find. It's hard to get paid for. Medicaid doesn't pay for diabetes education, and so a lack of education was a huge issue. And so what we did is I actually developed a diabetes curriculum that is based on several evidence-based diabetes curriculums, and I adapted them for the IDD population. And so before COVID happened, I had started doing these classes in person, and I would go and teach a group of 10 people and do this probably once a week. But things have changed. And so actually in the next couple of weeks, we're going to be launching our first online diabetes education programs. And we're really excited about that, to offer something virtual for individuals with disabilities. And if at the end of this presentation, you're interested in talking about that more, I can talk to you about it. Now, we also have partnered in a nationwide effort to raise diabetes awareness. This part of our program is actually a 10-state collaboration where we worked to create a information video that is made for people with disabilities by people with disabilities. And I'll tell you more about that in a moment. So I'm going to kind of give you an example of what I do in my diabetes education class. This is a very shortened version. We like to, in my online classes or in my in-person class, we do a lot of activities to help with understanding. But I'm just going to do a quick overview of diabetes. So diabetes, obviously, it's a very complex disease. There's an issue with digestion and the breakdown of carbohydrates into sugar, glucose. Therefore, the sugar is not leveled in the bloodstream. So the insulin moves the sugar into cells for energy, but either your body doesn't make enough insulin or your body can't use the insulin that you make, and that's diabetes. So type 1, you usually see type 1 in, it can be a lot in younger individuals. It's older individuals too, obviously, but a lot of times you're either born with type 1 or it develops earlier on in life. That's where your body doesn't make insulin. And most individuals with type 1 have to inject insulin to function properly. It's an autoimmune disorder. It's not related to diet or exercise, so it's nothing that you did or didn't do. It's something you're born with. Diagnosed at any age, but like I said, half are children. So type 2 diabetes is something that can develop a little bit later in life, and that's where your body just doesn't use the insulin you make properly. Type 2 diabetes has to be managed through diet, exercise, and it can be either oral medication and sometimes insulin. And you develop type 2 diabetes later. It can be genetic, or maybe it can be influenced by diet or exercise and can be diagnosed at any age. Just to kind of give you a visual of the type 1 and type 2. So, I mean, if you have a group of 10 diabetics, 1 is type 1 and 9 would be type 2. So 90% of diabetics are type 2. So that's what we're going to talk about a little more in depth today, is type 2 diabetes. The type 2 diabetes is our focus mainly because it can be prevented. If you're pre-diabetic, you can make lifestyle changes that can help get you on your road to being recovered from that. So risk factors for type 2 diabetes is lack of exercise. So if you don't exercise enough, you could be at risk. If you're overweight, carrying around extra weight can be hard on your body, and it's a risk factor for diabetes. It can also be genetic. So if you have diabetes in your family, you need to be extra aware. And unhealthy eating. If you never eat a vegetable, that might be a risk factor for diabetes. So it's important to pay attention to these risk factors and to see if you can make changes. So 1 in 3 Americans have prediabetes. And they say have prediabetes, but really having prediabetes is having those risk factors. So if you're incredibly overweight, if you haven't exercised, if you have high cholesterol, you generally are unhealthy, then they would call you pre-diabetic. But it is something that you can recover from if you make healthy choices. So here's some things that you can do to help manage your diabetes or help get yourself out of the pre-diabetic zone. If you have diabetes and you have to monitor your blood glucose, you should absolutely be doing that on the regular as your doctor instructs you to do, because it's very important to monitor that blood sugar level. A balanced diet is very important. Alex talked about nutrition. Eating vegetables, eating a wide variety of foods is very important. And for diabetics, carbohydrates turns into glucose, and individuals with diabetes cannot consume a lot of carbohydrates. So that's why they're talking about carbohydrate counting. So just watching your carbs, watching what you eat to help keep your blood at a decent level. Medication. So if your doctor prescribes you medication or you take insulin, you have to make sure that you're taking that on schedule as prescribed, or else it's not going to work as it should. And then exercise, yoga, it doesn't have to be incredibly physically exerting exercise. You can do yoga, you can do something that's a little bit easier on you, as long as you're moving at least 3 times a week. So one part I was excited to share with you guys that I have incorporated into my diabetes education is the Special Olympics Fit 5 program. When I found this, I really liked it because I was struggling to find ways to simplify healthy lifestyles. That's so overwhelming, trying to get healthy, make healthy choices. It's like, oh, where do I even start? Well, Special Olympics and their Fit 5 has really kind of broken it down to where it's easy, it's easy to follow. It's like, okay, I can do this. I can exercise 5 days a week. I can eat 5 fruits and vegetables a day, and I can drink 5 bottles of water a day. I really like this. And with my education class, we kind of go week by week and start keeping track of a little at a time. Like, okay, the first week, let's keep track of how much water we drink. And we'll use the tracking sheet and do that. And then maybe we'll incorporate the fruit and vegetables. But there's a tracking sheet that goes along with this, and it's all on the Special Olympics website. It's where I accessed it. And I just really like it, and I've incorporated that into our program. Okay, so that was a little bit of my diabetes education that I do with individuals. But I want to talk to you about our video that we haven't necessarily developed, but we've worked in collaboration with to develop. So there's a diabetes PSA video. It's for self-advocates, made in collaboration with and starring self-advocates. It was a 10-state effort with a grant provided by the CDC. And we actually ran out, we rolled out listening sessions a couple of months ago, and we were looking for adults with intellectual or developmental disabilities that have diabetes. And what we wanted was their opinion. So we wanted them to watch this video and tell us what they thought about it. And we're still actually looking for individuals that want to give us their opinions. So if you know anybody that might qualify for that, I would really appreciate it. In the meantime, I'm going to show this video. And how much time do I have, Jennifer?
We're doing pretty good right now. It's only 6:54, so I know it won't take me longer than 30 minutes to do my part, so we should be good.
Okay, well, I'll go ahead and play the video for a little while and let you guys get the gist of it, because it's really fun. Let's hope that y'all can hear this, though.
Hey, where's Bobby? Haven't you heard?
Dad, Bobby is in the hospital.
What? He wasn't taking care of himself. He wasn't managing his diabetes care.
Hey, Brandy, we can hear it, but I can't see it.
Oh no. Okay, let me try a different screen share. Probably because I went to a different screen.
I'm minding diabetes so I can live my life.
Sorry, I'm trying to start this over. Okay, can you see it now?
Hey, where's Bobby?
Haven't you heard?
Dude, Bobby is in the hospital.
Yes, we can see it now.
He wasn't taking care of himself. He wasn't managing his diabetes care.
I have to take care of my diabetes so I can live my life.
We just have too many friends with diabetes who don't take care of themselves.
Maybe we should help them learn what to do to stay healthy.
We need to teach them what to do.
I think we should try to use social media to help us.
Oh.
Ugh, Bobby, your selfies are out of focus again. I wonder if your diabetes is affecting your vision. Maybe you need an annual diabetes eye exam?
Oh.
Bobby, try checking with a friend to help you focus your camera. But seriously, get your eyes and retinas checked by a doctor once a year.
Okay then, what if we make it fun to take care of themselves? Every day is Diabetes Day. Let's decorate the diabetes club with a blood sugar testing monitor and medication.
You gotta take your medications every day.
Let's put a healthy snack under the diabetes bush for the doctor to eat.
Now it's time to exercise.
And don't forget to ask a friend to help you if you need it. Every day is Diabetes Day.
Well, what about if we get elected to Congress to help them? If you vote for me, I will fight for your diabetes care. I will make sure you get your blood pressure monitored. We can fight it. We can beat it. It's treatable. Vote for me, and we can fight diabetes together.
I got an idea. What if we made a TV show they could learn from? Bobby, you're going to be okay. I'm Dr. Aja. You're at the hospital. Your blood, and your sugar levels are too high. Get an insulin drip ready.
I think I'm gonna be sad.
Bobby, you have to take better care of yourself. You have diabetes. You have to see your primary care doctor every 6 months because they need to check your blood sugar levels and cholesterol. Your primary care doctor also needs to check your feet. While you're here, let's take a look.
Okay. So that was a little bit of the video. Let me go back to my PowerPoint. Okay, so, and I'll post the link to that video here in just a moment, but if you're interested in giving us feedback on this video, we're more than, we would love feedback. We actually need more. So if you know anybody with type 2 diabetes that might want to watch it and give us feedback, just email me and I would love to speak with you about that. So I'm happy to take any questions. Here's my contact information. That's my email, and once again, my program and where I'm at. And if you have any questions, or if you're interested in diabetes education or of any of the other programs that we've talked about, I'm more than happy to talk with you guys about that at any time. Does anybody have any other questions for me? Trying to look at the chat.
Don't see anything in the chat yet, but we'll give them a couple seconds.
Okay, yeah, that's what I was looking for. And
I
I'll
feel like
post
my
the link
chat is
to
taking
the,
a second to update.
okay, and I'll post the link to the video in the chat so that you guys can watch that later if you want, once I get off of here.
Okay, can you guys see my screen now? Oh, hold on, we got some stuff in the chat. Oh, there's. No worries, Brandy. Okay, it does say, Dominic says that he's having trouble seeing the YouTube link. Dominic, if we need to, I can always copy that link and send it to you by email. Let me just very quickly. And I'll just stick it right there, and then I can email that to you in just a little bit, Dominic, so don't worry about that. Okay, all right, so Alex or Brandy, I'll just kind of let you guys watch the chat for me in case there's any questions or anything that pops up while I am going on here. Okay, okay, awesome. Thanks, Michael, for letting me know you can see that. So for those of you who knew me in other realms, or I don't want to call them past careers because I kind of feel like everything I've ever done in some form or fashion, you know, kind of got me here. So I am a registered dental hygienist by trade, clinical trade. So tonight I'm going to be talking to you about oral health, something that I absolutely love to educate about. I don't have any patients that I can hold hostage and educate anymore. So I have to rely on you guys to voluntarily show up and let me talk to you about it. Okay. So for those of you who don't already have my contact information, at this point you likely have it in some form or fashion. Of course, my email at Special Olympics, and then if you don't already have my cell, go ahead and feel free to save that so that if we're on something and you need to text me if you're having some kind of technical difficulty or something like that, and I'm on that webinar, you can text me, or if you have a random question about any of the oral health stuff that we're going to go over tonight. Okay, so first off, we're going to talk about what is oral health. What does that look like to us? We'll talk a little bit about statistics. Don't worry, I do my master's degree is in public health, but I promise I won't bore you with statistics. It's some pretty interesting facts. We'll talk a little bit about causes and prevention methods of oral disease. We'll talk about specialty products that are available. I'll briefly touch on alternative treatment options and like directions that our future oral health care methods are going in. And then of course, we'll talk about Special Olympics Arkansas oral health resources. And then we'll get to our prize at the very end once you guys are done listening to me. It may take me just a few minutes to gather some things to do the drawing once I'm done speaking, but then we'll do that at the end. So don't forget to stay on. Okay, so if you guys will use the chat box, what is oral health to you? What does it look like? When you think about my mouth is healthy, what do you think of? Thank you, Miss Vicki. Plaque and cavity free, okay. Jared, that's absolutely right. Nothing hurts. That's a really big thing for most of us, right? We don't want anything to hurt in our mouths. And then exactly, Vicki, with the plaque and cavity free, Mackenzie brushing the teeth, using good mouthwash consistently. Those are all good things that help us keep our mouths healthy. So the World Health Organization has its own definition of what is oral health. And the most important thing, ooh, that was a nice one, Todd. Thank you. No bleeding gums. We love to say in dental hygiene, healthy gums don't bleed. They don't. So thank you, Todd, for putting that up there. Oral health goes way beyond our appearance, right? What our mouth looks like. In order for us to have a healthy mouth, we should be, as you mentioned, free from pain, free from any lesions, gum disease, which includes bleeding gums, any cavities, tooth loss, or any ailment that we have that affects our ability to bite, to chew our food, to smile, to speak, and to feel good about ourselves. Thank you, Greg. Yes, nice teeth. You have to remember that for a lot of people, when I had patients, they would talk a lot about, I want to do this to my smile. I feel like I can't smile around my, when I'm in public. I'm worried about what my teeth look like. How could we fix this? And, when you meet someone, the first thing you usually do is smile, which now, I think at this point, all you can see is like that I crinkle my eyes when I smile, since we can't really see one another's faces when we're out and about. But yeah, you guys are absolutely right. You did a great job of listing even in the World Health Organization examples. So why does oral health matter? Yes, we don't want our mouth to be in any pain. It's important to us. It needs to be healthy for us to speak, right? And especially if you have a job where you do speak all the time, if you're a teacher, anybody who works like reception, front desk, those are sort of the initial phase. Speaking to patients and clients as they come in. And basically the whole point of why it's important for our mouths to be healthy is because in order for the rest of our bodies to also be healthy, we need our mouth to be healthy. Our mouths are where everything starts, right? It's the gateway to almost every other organ system that we have. If we don't take care of our mouths properly, it can lead to infections and diseases in other parts of our body. So from this little infographic here, you can tell that there are several other problems that can happen because of infections or diseases in the mouth. It can cause issues with heart disease. Of course, mouth cancer can form. The fun thing about, fun fact, I guess I should say, is Brandy talking about individuals with diabetes. There's a direct link between diabetes and individuals who have gum disease. So if you have diabetes, you are much more likely to have periodontal disease. Now, if you have gum disease, it doesn't mean you're going to get diabetes. It doesn't go backwards. But if you have diabetes, it's much more likely that you'll end up with gum disease. Gum disease is an inflammatory process. So, and so is diabetes in some fashion. So if you can imagine, when you think about complications of diabetes, for example, like problems with healing with wounds, if you could imagine, when you think about gum disease, for example, if there's infection in the gums, inflammation in the gums, they're bleeding. Oh, yes, Dominic, it can, yes, it can cause issues with lung conditions. You're absolutely right. I'll talk a little bit about that in just a second. Thank you for reminding me. So if you took your gums out, if you had gum disease and you took them out, it would be equal to if you had a sore on the entire palm of your hand. The whole palm of your hand was a giant bleeding sore, right? You'd likely rush into the doctor to try to get something to help with that pain, to help with the bleeding, in hopes that you could get that to heal as absolutely quickly as possible, right? Same thing goes with gum disease. It's about that large, but it's inside the mouth, and sometimes it's a little bit easier to skip over. But if you can imagine, if it's in your mouth and there's infection there, you may be constantly ingesting that bacteria, which then spreads to the other organs, like your lungs, for example, or your heart. Also, of course, you're going to have issues with potential tooth loss or bad breath, or you might develop cavities also. In other parts of the body, you can see those conditions. It also can affect the way that your medications work. Sometimes the medications that you take, say for example, I usually use diabetes as an example. The medications, if you can imagine, your body is already struggling with a chronic illness, and it's trying to do its best to do its job. It's suffering, and able to do that job that it's supposed to do. You take medications to help your body sort of fill the gap. But if your body is also fighting a chronic long-term infection like gum disease, it's like it can't do any one thing really well. It's trying to fight this infection, but it's also trying to take this medication that's supposed to make this other part of your body work well. So a lot of times we see a lot of patients that come in, they have diabetes and they struggle a lot with keeping their numbers under control. And they also have gum disease. A lot of times we can treat their gum disease, put them on a maintenance recall system. So they come in so often once we've taken care of the gums, removed the infection, and then we see them every so often, and we're able to help them get things back into balance. It's one way that we help get those numbers back into balance. This guy right here, this is my nephew. His name is Morgan. I just wanted to quickly tell you a little tooth-related story about him. So he has autism, and he is not nonverbal. He can talk. He doesn't talk a whole lot, but he can. He has days where he talks a lot and some days where he doesn't. But we learned that when he started losing his baby teeth, he didn't always, oh, I lost my tooth, here's my tooth, right? Sometimes the tooth would get loose and he would stop eating normal foods that he really liked, or he would start pulling them apart or doing something different with them. And it was just because the tooth, if you can imagine when you have a tooth that's loose in there and it's kind of start wiggling around and it might bleed or something like that. He couldn't stand that feeling. He couldn't stand the taste if it started bleeding. So a lot of times he would avoid eating certain foods. So that was in some ways how we learned to oh, he must be starting to lose another tooth again. And then we could kind of modify what he's eating for a few days until he could get that tooth out of there. But in this picture, he told me I wasn't smiling hard enough. So I had to smile extra hard so my eyes are extra squinty. Okay, here is the non-boring stats that I promised you. So when we talk about oral findings, right, different conditions in individuals with intellectual disabilities versus the general population, individuals with intellectual disability have a pretty average cavity rate. It's not really a whole lot different from the general population, but they do have a higher number of untreated cavities. So you go in, have cavities, right? Next person in the next room just as likely to have cavities. But the difference is that for a lot of individuals with intellectual disabilities, they have a higher rate of untreated cavities, which means that they haven't been in to get those restored. And there are a lot of reasons, you guys know, that individuals may not come in to get those fixed. It could be that they're apprehensive to come. A lot of times we find barriers like transportation, cost, and sometimes even finding a provider in your area is hard for individuals with intellectual disabilities. And we'll talk a little bit about how Special Olympics tries to combat that too. Any individual that's on a soft diet increases their risk for cavities. If you can imagine, like, for example, there are foods that we talk about. We'll use celery as an example, since you guys were talking about liking to eat celery as a healthy snack earlier. Celery is one of those foods that as you eat it, its consistency almost helps to clean your teeth. It'll help remove some plaque as you're eating it because of the consistency of that food. Now, the less crisp, let's say, the food is, the softer it gets, the more it sticks to the tooth. So as you chew it up, you know, let's say, for example, something like oatmeal, for example. When you chew up oatmeal, it's already sort of like this creamy consistency anyway. And especially if it has any kind of sugar in it, it really likes to stick to all the surfaces of the teeth. The longer those particles stick to the teeth, the more likely a cavity will form underneath there. But the one thing, especially in research that we find, individuals with intellectual disabilities have a much higher than average rate of periodontal disease or gum disease. It's not uncommon for patients to come in, they have an intellectual disability, but they also have gum disease, and we try to treat that for them, get them on a good maintenance schedule, and help educate them on the best ways to prevent any further bone loss, because that's the big thing about gum disease. The gums will bleed, but what's hiding underneath there is sort of this process where the bone and the gum starts to shy away. It gets shorter on the bottom, higher on the top. And that's where the phrase long in the tooth comes from. It's not that the tooth actually gets longer, it's that the supporting structures tend to separate away. Also, if you hear something bumping around in the corner, it's my dog. She does this every single Zoom that I get on. Don't know why. So, also just briefly wanted to talk a little bit about research from a Special Olympics perspective. In 2019, there was global data that was gathered. And with the screening programs that are conducted during sports competitions, right, our healthy athlete events, approximately 46 of Special Olympics athletes have signs of gingivitis. Gingivitis is where the gums are irritated and bleed, but they haven't had any of those upward or downward changes with the bone level. 37% have untreated tooth decay, which means there's a cavity that's active, it hasn't been treated yet. 15% report pain in the mouth, and 14% receive an urgent dental referral. And when we talk about urgent dental referrals, what we mean by that is that really, whatever that problem is, it really needs to be handled in the next 24 to 48 hours, as quickly as possible. So let's talk a little bit about oral care providers in the state. Where do they sit? Where are they located? And what does that mean for individuals across the state, Arkansas, especially those with intellectual disabilities? So I'm going to use this map. I'm not going to really use it for what it's intended for. This is a map of health professional shortage areas, which means we don't have enough providers, or we have an adequate number of providers in any given area. I don't know if you can see my mouse, I think so. So the areas of white, so here, central Arkansas, so right northwest, west, central, a couple of other random spots in the state are where we have our highest concentration of dentists. Not surprisingly, in just a second, we'll talk about where our SOAR partners, our oral care providers are located that are partners with Special Olympics Arkansas. But as you can see, as you get to the red, as that score gets higher, what it means is there are much more people than there are dentists. So it's almost impossible for those dentists to keep up with the number of people in that area who need them. And as you guys know, as the more rural areas you get into, I'm from a small town in Little Perry County. So the more rural area you get into, the more likely you're going to face a difficulty with finding an oral health care provider in that area. Okay, so our SOAR partners with many dental providers across the state. However, most of our partners are concentrated in 2 to 3 general areas. So you guys, I obviously don't know which area all of you are from. So just look, the reason I did it like this is because I wanted you to identify your area. Think about where you are, where you participate, right? And so northwest, west, and central, much like the shortage area map where it was white, where there were a lot of providers. It stands to reason that most of our partners come from these 3 areas. It's not surprising. However, we are going to be continuously working. We've got some opportunities coming up in the next year through our Arkansas Dental Association to be able to try to do more inclusive health education and hopefully find inclusive health partners that help to fill these gaps across the state, so that it doesn't matter which area that you live in. If you come to a Healthy Athletes event and you get screened and you say, let's say you have a cavity that needs to be treated, but you're not really sure where to go in your area, this helps us have a higher number of partners that are closer to you. And those partners will be trained and educated on providing effective quality treatment for our athletes with intellectual disabilities across the state. Okay, now for some fun talk. So I think you guys can probably get the theme that's going on here, but does anybody know the single thing that's in this picture that actually causes a cavity? I'll let you guys put it in the chat. Yes, Miss Vicky, you are absolutely right. Yes, Dominic, perfect. So it's sugar. So this little image here with these little guys, there's a special bacteria that lives in your mouth. Everybody has it. Nobody gets away from it, okay? And its most favorite thing in the whole world to eat is sugar. So it eats sugar, and then it makes an acid, right? You know, like if you pour like a Coke on a battery, right, and it like eats the gunk off of there, the acid that's in that is similar to the acid that these bacteria produce, and that's how they eat the little holes in your tooth and you get a cavity. And that's sort of that cycle and how that happens. Now, the more sugar that we intake, the more acid they make, which we call those acid attacks, okay? So the more sugar, the more acid attacks, And in just a second, I'm going to show you a fun little graphic. Anybody want to take a guess? You might can guess it from here, but anybody want to guess how long an average acid attack lasts? Minutes, how many minutes? Dominic says 2. Anybody else want to guess? Luna's guessing 5 minutes. She held up a whole paw. 15 minutes for Miss Vicky. Miss Vicky, you're so close. If you and Luna add your numbers together, you're exactly right. 20 minutes is how long an average acid attack lasts. So if you can imagine for 20 minutes after you eat something loaded with sugar, sitting in there, and it's eating away at the tooth as this acid is sitting there and eating at the tooth. Now, the reason this is so incredibly important and how this image makes sense, what it means is try, if you're going, let's say, man, I love Diet Coke. I really live for it and I need it. And I drink 3 a day. Right, exactly, Angie. Shame on you, sugar. Let's say you eat something sugary in the morning, at lunch, and at dinner in some form or fashion. A Diet Coke, a sweet tea, a dessert, something, okay? What this indicates is these are 20-minute intervals, but you're doing this 3 times in a day. This is what it looks like when you snack on items throughout the day, or you snack and then you sip a tea or you sip a Coke, right? And you get like, y'all don't play, y'all like me. Y'all go to Sonic and get that Route 44 and you leave that sucker on your desk from noon until time to go home at 5. That's this right here, these 20-minute constant intervals. If you could imagine, that's why people get the image in their head like, oh, candy's bad for me and Cokes are really bad for me. While overall health, potentially, yes, they can cause you problems. But from a tooth and mouth perspective, you can eat them, you can drink them. You just need to eat or drink them in a single setting. Don't snack on those items throughout a full time period or a full day. Okay, anybody, somebody is going to remember this picture because it's been in a commercial before. Anybody want to tell me what is something that happens to your mouth that can make these acid attacks even more harmful? Just a guess. Thank you, James. You're absolutely right. Mine was doing it just then. If your mouth gets too dry, we like to call that xerostomia. If you ever hear your dentist throw that fancy word at you. Xerostomia, which means your mouth is dry. If anybody here has issues with allergies, right? You know, sniffly and stuff when stuff blooms or mold or anything like that, you take something like a Benadryl or a Zyrtec to help dry it all up. Those medicines are no respecters of body parts, right? If it's drying up your sinuses, it will also dry up your mouth. So it's important that we pay attention to things like that. And almost, with all honesty, guys, almost every medication out there that you could take, the #1 side effect is dry mouth. So a lot of people suffer with dry mouth symptoms. So if it's dry, the cool thing about your saliva is it protects your teeth and actually helps to ward off the effects of these acid attacks. So if you take that barrier, that protective saliva barrier away, your mouth is really dry and you have an acid attack, this is when we see issues where like a person really, let's say they haven't really changed their diet much, and they have candy here and there, maybe a Coke once a day, something like that, but then they get put on a medication and it dries their mouth out and they come in for their 6-month recheck and they've got 10 cavities and they've been doing fine all this time. Instances like that are really common. And we know that our athletes with intellectual disabilities, a lot of our athletes have other conditions as well, which means they're on perhaps some medications, and any of those medications likely can cause dry mouth. So it's incredibly important to make sure that we're monitoring for that, trying to keep the mouth as moist as possible so that it's in its best shape to help block those acid attacks or bring that pH a little bit more back to normal. So how do we stop them? As I was just mentioning, saliva is one of our best fighters against the acid attacks. Another great help that we have is fluoride. You can find fluoride, it's in your drinking water. It's in, of course, fluoridated toothpaste. We've done a lot of studies of fluoride over the years, and we know that the one really cool thing about fluoride is that it helps prevent cavities. If it's thinking about being a cavity, but it's not yet, we call that demineralization. If it's thinking about being a cavity, but it hasn't made a hole, you can apply some fluoride to that area, kind of bathe it in it, treat it special, and it will reverse that demineralization. It'll come back to hardness. And those two things are really, you can also find it in mouthwashes. There are mouthwashes that have fluoride in it too, that basically help to remineralize your enamel and make it hard again. It won't fix a cavity, but it will help to remineralize any area that was thinking about becoming one. So I'm sure you guys have heard twice a day brushing is best. Man, I gave it away. I thought I fixed it on this slide. I was going to ask you if you had to pick a time of day, if you're a 1 time a day person, if you just can't get on the 2 times a day train, when is the best time to do it? Most important time to do it is before you go to bed. Absolutely, Vicki. I remember when I was in hygiene school, and I can't remember who said it to me, but it stuck with me. It's always going to stick with me. They used to say, you know, you brush your teeth in the morning for your friends, and you brush your teeth at night for yourself. That's right, Dominic. I'm glad you do it before school. So you're brushing your teeth and making sure your breath smells nice and fresh for all your classmates. But when you brush them at night, you're making sure that the acid and the bacteria aren't just sitting on there, really just working to make some nasty cavities through the nighttime. Flossing. Every day is best. You guys remember, gosh, I'm not even sure how old I am at this point. This has been the longest 5 years. 2020 has been the longest 5 years of my life. But I think a couple of years ago, there were some studies or some news announcements that came out that people were saying, well, you can't really prove that flossing helps prevent gum disease and helps prevent cavities. Anybody want to take a stab as to why there's not research that shows, yes, flossing absolutely helps prevent those things? Anybody want to take a stab at that? I'm giving you a second. No answer is a silly answer. Okay, I don't see anybody guessing. So the reason is because you can't ask someone to not do something that could potentially cause them irreversible harm in order to get results or data back. So that's why there aren't a ton of studies that say, oh, well, this group flossed every day, this group didn't, and this group got gum disease, right? You can't make them harm themselves just by participating in a study. So daily is best. I used to tell my patients that, yes, flossing, you know, there was, I feel bad, I don't floss every day. My hygienist is going to get on to me, right? Well, I wasn't that kind of hygienist. Yes, daily is ideal, but I don't expect you to do it just because I told you to, and just because I told you, you know, you really should. Usually what I tell people, it's just like any other habit that you form. If you see me and the only time that your teeth get flossed or when you come to see me twice a year, any improvement between there and the next 6 months when I would see you again, I would be happy with. Working toward daily is the goal up here, but anything that we can get, you know, anytime you think of it, people get really frustrated, right? It's like any other habit. It's like falling off the wagon with a diet, right? Man, I've lost so good for 2 weeks and I fell off the wagon. I'm like, better not. Better just let it go until next go around. Well, it's not one of those situations. You can do it anytime you think of it. I know people who do it when they're watching TV. I know some people who just keep them in their car, like little cup holder area. They do it when they're going to work. Yes, it is best if you could do it once a day and you could do it before you go to bed. But really, we're excited if you can get it in any way or time possible. Celebrate the small victories. I'm a big pusher for that. Okay, which food is better? Which one do you want to pick? I mean, I know which one I want to pick, but which one for your teeth is best? The first one. Thank you, Dominic. So fruits, they're nice and sweet, but they're a good kind of sweet. They don't have the artificial sugars in there. Now, one thing that you might notice, looks like some oranges here. Has anybody ever heard from their dentist, if you eat oranges or you drink orange juice, don't immediately go brush your teeth right after that? You've heard that before, Dominic? Perfect. Anybody else heard that before? I'm always just kind of curious if anybody's heard it. So the reason that we tell you, drink your orange juice or eat your acidic fruit like oranges, right? I love oranges. If you eat them, don't immediately go to the bathroom and brush your teeth right before you leave for work, because they have so much acid in them. If you just immediately go in there and go to town to brushing, right? What you're doing, it's like etching, like etched glass. It's like etching your enamel. When you're brushing, you're basically brushing the acid into the tooth structure. So it's better if you can wait. If you can wait 20 minutes, that's great, right? Because that's the end of our acid attack. If you can wait about 20 minutes when you're doing something really acidic, give that time to calm down. You can even drink a little bit of water, and that will help moisten the area, cleanse it, get the pH back to a normal level, and then go on ahead and brush your teeth. What about drinks? I think this is an easy one. Number one best drink is water. I think I took the other one out. If you had to pick between milk or juice, which is better? Milk? Some milks, yeah. Milk, the average whole milk, if you take a glass of whole milk, the average amount of sugar in there is about 14 grams, which is pretty high. Of course, sodas are going to be your highest, but there are some juices and sports drinks. I know our athletes sometimes really like to drink like Gatorades and Powerades. Those are full of sugars and can sometimes be acidic. So just remember, if you're going to be partaking in those, drink it when you need it. Don't drink them all day long. I put this in here because I know a lot of times it's hard. It's hard for anyone, but I know, for example, like my nephews who have intellectual disabilities, we struggle with sometimes getting them to drink water. And you can utilize like the water flavorings. They're going to have a few calories in them. It's usually pretty minimal. It's about 90% less calories than like a soda. But the important thing to make sure is if you need these to help you get the right amount of water intake in a day, that you get the sugar free. And so you're kind of set and okay with how that affects the mouth. Okay, other ways that we protect our teeth. You got to come see us, right? Go see your hygienist. Find you one that you love so that you're always excited to go see them. They'll take great care of you. They'll let you know if you need to come in more frequently or if you need to stay the regular 6 months. They help you understand all kinds of things. They can help you with questions about your insurance sometimes. If you know you need to have something done, you can usually ask them or ask the front desk. They're usually pretty helpful with, I need to know I need to have this done. How do I go about doing that? And they can usually point you in the right direction for helping you find those answers. The dental exam should occur at least once a year. At least once a year, you should have a dentist that comes in, takes a look at the whole mouth, looks for any oral cancers, looks for cavities, those kind of things. just to make sure that everything's good and healthy. And of course, like I said, the dental hygienist, a lot of times we're your first stop. Now, unless you have something that's hurting and you go right in and you're in a room and you just see the dentist that day, a lot of times you get to see us first, right? You get to tell us about any problems that you're having, any issues. We do all those assessments, right? We get in there and poke around, write some stuff and click in the computer, right? And what we're looking for is, do we think you might have a cavity? Do we think that your gums are healthy? Are they doing okay? How are your teeth doing? Are they hurting? We take your x-rays, we look at all that, and then we relay all that information to the doctor, and then we all kind of work together to try to make a plan for what we might recommend that needs to be done. And then we try to help you solve that problem on, okay, here are the things I need to have done. How do I go about that? Maybe how do I schedule it to get the most out of my insurance benefits? We learn how to do that too. Insurance with anything else, there's a little bit of a system to it, right? And we can usually help you figure out how to get sort of, I'm a big proponent also of getting the most for what you pay for, right? So making sure that we help you understand, okay, let's schedule this much, and then maybe next time we'll do this much, all those kind of things. So we learn about all those things so that we can try to be the most helpful to you as we possibly can. I did want to just put a little something here for any of our caregivers or our parents who may have difficulties with brushing teeth or like getting the mouth open. I worked a lot with patients who had some physical disabilities, and we used, I learned a lot about, and when I taught as well, about specialty products, how to best use those. And I worked a lot with caregivers on getting these instruments to be able to more effectively be able to get a good look, right? Get a good look at those teeth. Sometimes that's hard. Sometimes it's a fight. To get a good look at the teeth, get a little better in there for the brushing, making the brushing process easier by maybe using one that looks like this little green guy right here. A lot of times people, you can use these on kids. They're good for kids, but you can literally use it on anyone. I like these anytime I was providing oral care. There is, Angie, there is foam-free toothpaste. I'm going to show you that in just a second. If you can see, it's got 3 sides, so it brushes the sides of your teeth and the top part that you chew on all at the same time, which is really, really handy, okay? Especially if you're somebody who's trying to brush someone else's teeth, right? These open wide mouth props are great. They're soft. It's not hard like a plastic mouth prop. They're foam. They're soft. And as you can see, they're kind of staggered here on this end. So it's not like you're going to get them open too much, right? It's a way to help them just relax on it, but where you can get the mouth open just enough that you can get in there and brush much better. So this is an example of the the foam-free toothpaste. And what you look for, Miss Angie, is if it's SLS free. That stands for sodium lauryl sulfate. It is the sudsy stuff in all the stuff we use that's sudsy, like shampoo, laundry detergent, toothpaste, all of those things. So you just want to look for something when you're searching that's SLS free. Your big question, where do I get these specialty items? It used to be a situation where you had to like find the little label on the thing, and okay, there's a company that makes it and it's the only company you can get it from. But now, thanks to Amazon, you can literally get anything on Amazon. You just kind of have to know how to type it in and what you're searching for. So you can type in like foam free or SLS free toothpaste. A lot of these, what I would recommend, even though if you want to avoid the foam, but still get the good anti-cavity and protection benefits of fluoride, that one that we just saw, let me go back, maybe. This Verb Ultra, it still has the fluoride in it. So it still does the protection with fluoride, but it doesn't foam, which is great. Now, if I've got any parents or caregivers here who where swallowing is an issue, like they can't spit out the toothpaste, then the non-foaming is great, but you want to make sure that it's one that doesn't have fluoride in it, because you don't want them to just chronically ingest larger amounts of fluoride, because it'll upset their stomach, make them feel sick. Y'all remember, anybody still, I bet some of y'all around here old school, when you used to go in and they had the foam trays and they put the foam in there, put it in your mouth, and you gotta sit there, and you're like, and they put the suction in there and you're just chilling in there with your foamy stuff. I mean, I remember when I was in hygiene school and we got excited because some of those flavors were nasty, like bubble gum, but sometimes you get a good flavor like strawberry or like strawberries and cream. We would get excited. Okay, what if you're not sure which product you need? That's what we're made for, right? Ask your hygienist. Of course, your dentist can answer these same questions, right? But who do you spend more time with when you're in the office? Usually you're spending more time with your hygienist, right? And that's the time that's perfect. We get real excited about tailoring products and techniques for every single person. What we do best is individualized oral hygiene care. That's our jam. And basically, if you're not sure, ask them. I've got this situation. This is kind of what I'm looking for. What can I use? What's out there that I can even use? A dear friend of mine who's a hygienist, a lot of times somebody will be sitting there telling her about something. And you ever gone to like an appointment and you're like sitting there, you know, and then they're like, oh yeah, get this thing. And they tell you the name, and then you wrote it on some like receipt from like 2 weeks ago, and then you can't find it when you get home, and then you never buy it. I know that's me every single time a doctor says, oh yeah, just buy this thing over the counter. So best method that we found is if either I would usually just look it up online, print it out, and say, here, this is what you're looking for when you go to the store. That is sort of best method. Or goodness, I mean, you guys know at this point, you can sit in the chair, search it on Amazon while you're getting your teeth cleaned, and find it and have that sucker ordered and at your door by the time you get home. And you can always ask me, especially if you're looking for specialty products for individuals with intellectual disability or other disabilities. If you're like, man, this is the thing that I really struggle with, or that we really have a hard time with, always happy to help brainstorm. If I know of something, I can tell you. If I don't know, I can find it. And if I can't find it, I know someone who can. 9 times out of 10, maybe even 9.5. So when issues arise, when you go in, there's a problem. There's a cavity or something. Let's just start with cavity. How do you fix it? Right? There's traditional restorations, right? Like a silver filling or a white filling, or if it's real bad, you might have a cap on it, right? Or a crown. Alternative restorative therapies, the reason that I want to bring these up is not so that you go out and ask your dentist, can I have this thing done? I want to bring it up because I feel like alternative restorative therapies, like they're almost made for individuals with disabilities or intellectual disabilities, that it's difficult. Let's say, just for an example, had a dear sweet patient who has Down syndrome, and it was so difficult to work around his tongue and keep the tooth dry to put a filling in, right? The cool thing about some of these alternative restorative therapies is they're literally made to still be able to work correctly, even if the area is wet. A lot of them, like your white fillings that you get, a lot of them will not stay in if the spot gets wet while they're trying to put it in there. So when we say it's hard to keep a dry field, that's what we mean. It's hard to keep the tooth dry to get it in there to make it stay. So I'm a pretty big proponent of alternative restorative therapies, because a lot of them honestly were created with those scenarios in mind, where it's almost impossible to keep a dry field, to get normal restorations, your regular easy stuff like composites and amalgams in there to stay. Sedation dentistry, any of our parents or caregivers that have experienced sedation dentistry likely have been to somewhere like Children's Children's Hospital in our state is sort of the #1 go-to area for sedation dentistry, and that is just the current situation. At some point that may branch out, but as it stands right now, they are just the #1 best area that you can get to that can do full sedated dentistry. Free or low cost care. There are several different clinics across the state. If you can tell me your area, they're best for situations of like Medicaid or no insurance. Some of them have stipulations like that. They can't really help unless you have one of those two situations, Medicaid or no insurance at all. But there's several across the state, and depending on where you are, I can try to help get you in touch with those individuals to help you find care if you don't already have someone that's taking care of you. Our big event, some of you may have already been or you've heard of it at some point. The big event, the free event that we hold every year in dentistry is called the Arkansas Mission of Mercy. That is a free clinic. It moves across the state, and it was supposed to be in Conway this year, but COVID. But it is the one time a year that we all come together. We do millions of dollars of free dentistry in about a 2.5-day period of time, and it's an incredible sight to see. There are people that come from all over the state to be able to have some work done and to get some relief from like pain and discomfort. Teledentistry is something that's coming. It's here-ish. Like I said, it's here-ish. There are people who are using it in some capacity. I really felt like COVID was sort of the situation that was really going to sort of light a fire under teledentistry and push it forward. And I think it's happening. There's a lot of discussion and stuff that's happening in the dental field right now about exactly how are we going to push it forward and what is it going to look like. And so for a lot of individuals, for example, who may have a lot of difficulty going in, right, you can do things like real-time, like FaceTime type situations with the dentist. You can do where you take images and you send those to the dentist. They look at those images of maybe whatever problem that you can see in there. Obviously, it's not perfect. It's not like coming in and letting us take an x-ray or see that, but every once in a while it'll be, it's a good place to start sometimes for individuals moving forward. So we'll see what comes of that. It's something I'm excited for, and I'll keep you guys informed on what it looks like. So how is Special Olympics Arkansas continuing to help in the realm of keeping everyone in our inclusive health and our athletes with intellectual disabilities? How do we keep sort of this oral health movement going? We still continue to advocate for quality oral health care. I think you guys have probably heard me say that about 15 times tonight. Quality oral health care for our Kansans with intellectual disabilities. There are inclusive health trainings. We provide those to medical dental providers. We also do students, so like dental students, dental hygiene students, dental residents, to make sure that they're receiving the adequate care or the adequate training that they need to successfully provide quality care to individuals with intellectual disabilities across the state. And the only way that we're going to help those providers feel more ready and more educated to take care of our athletes is to make sure that we're meeting them where they're at and educating them and helping them to feel ready and comfortable, so that we can basically have more partners as we move forward. The Healthy Smile screenings and referrals, that'll be something that always continues. Partnerships that we hold with individuals, with payers like Delta Dental, for example. Delta Dental has, in the past, they do a lot of work to help us with our different trainings that we hold, different events that we hold, like Special Smiles. They provide some equipment and different things to help us with that. And they've done a lot of good work over the years for making sure that we get good funding for continuing oral health education and services across the state. We continue to develop partnerships with our providers, our payers, universities. We work with different universities to help incorporate curriculum changes to help educate those upcoming potential health providers so that they feel comfortable and properly educated and prepared, like I said, to treat our athletes and individuals with intellectual disabilities. As I mentioned before, the education that we offer, it's across the spectrum, right? We don't just hit students, or we don't just hit providers like that are already out and practicing. We try to hit the full range and make sure that we're offering something to all the groups. And we work with colleges also to incorporate other inclusive health policies and activities that they have across campuses and different professions too. It's not just like medical and dental. We do a whole lot of work with a whole lot of different types of education avenues. Okay, you guys survived to listen to me talk about teeth for oh so long. Just a few reminders. If you haven't already, and if you haven't attended, I just did a webinar, I think that was yesterday, who even knows what day of the week it is, about the fitness challenge. If you ever participated in Fit Families, Fit Teams previously, the fitness challenge is the new Fit Families, Fit Teams. And I did receive an email, I think, earlier. I just didn't get a chance to respond to that yet. I believe you're attending, so you know who you are. If you sent me an email and I haven't responded to that yet, I will shortly. Also, please don't forget, as of October 2nd, we are officially in back to training phase 1. So those of you who watched any of our webinars about our So Ready, the word's escaping me, event that we held, you could log on and learn about what is our phase 1, phase 2, phase 3 situation going to look like, our response to getting active again in the face of COVID-19. Phase 1 means that you guys can sign up to train, limit of 10 individuals at this training site. There's a back to training form that you fill out. It comes to me. I keep track of who's back to training and where they're at and what they're doing. It helps us know where you are, know who's doing which sports, and so we can serve you better. If you have questions about it, don't hesitate to email me or call me, and I can direct you to the link to get you signed up. If you're interested in doing that, same thing for the fitness challenge. There's a sign up for that, and would love to have some folks sign up for that. For the future, Virtual Healthy Athletes is coming. That will be November, December-ish. We're doing, it's more of a pilot right now. I need a group of 20 athletes for 2 different times. So we're going to do health promotion and fun fitness. So I need a group of 20 for each of those, and we're going to be trying out some fun virtual type situations. It's not like the normal, like full on like in-person screening, right, like you would normally get. But we've got some good ideas coming down the pipe, and we're excited to pilot those and see how it goes, so that we'll be ready to hopefully do a whole lot more coming next year in the spring. The Fitness Invitational, for anyone who hasn't heard about that, if you've listened to my Fitness Challenge webinars, you would hear about the Fitness Invitational. That is going to be something that we're still working on it. It'll be available once we get back to competition. So very excited about that. Jen and Irvin are working on that component, and I'm helping in whatever way that they need me to on that. And be sure that you're watching for phase 2. We don't have a date set for that, but at some point in time, right, we're moving in that direction ever so slowly. We'll be back and ready for competition. So right now, focus on training. Be sure that you're doing that. Be sure that you're getting those back to training forms to me, so that I can be available and helpful. And then watch for announcement for phase 2 in the future. Okay. If I could drum roll, I would, but I wasn't percussion. I was clarinet. So thank you, Alex. Give me like a few seconds. I'm going to turn off my video so you can't see my face. And I am going to draw someone who is present for the prize in some way. Spirit fingers. Okay. Okay, drum roll one more time. Hit me, Alex. Whoop. Our winner, who, let me make sure that you are still participating currently, is the lovely Miss Vicky. Yay! Woo-hoo! I know you're still on here, Vicky. I can see you in the participants list. Oh, thanks, Dominic. Everybody says, yay, Vicky. Vicky says, thanks, girl, for drawing my name. If you can't tell, I made this. I made a copy. I also made this. Speaking of blonde-headed children, it's the one they gave me at the hospital, so I named it. Okay, that's what I'm saying. Oh, guys, it's been a fun night. Thank you so very much. Okay, okay, go away now. Thank you so much for attending. I appreciate you guys staying up and hanging out with us. Alex and Brandy, I appreciate you guys so very much for pulling this together and presenting for everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, Vicky, everybody go get some fruit and veggies now. I had my frozen mango already, so. All right, guys, thank you so much. Have a great night.
Thanks, y'all.